I would love just to know, like, what is Leo Messi doing when he's on his phone? I don't know why that's sort of thought, but do you know?
I mean, we talked about fantasy football, right? So hopefully maybe he's doing some fantasy football research for the season that's coming up for us. So
That's what he's
see.
doing. I can't. Oh man, he's watching deep cut YouTube videos about how to play fantasy football. That is my new hope.
Or Football Manager.
Or Football Manager. I mean, I know Luis Suarez is already in there. I wouldn't be surprised if Leo Messi.
Yeah,
if
maybe
dabbles.
you got him into it. Yeah.
No, they do. They do have a mobile game. Maybe he watched the podcast, found out who I was, started watching tutorial. I mean, this is only 7 unbelievable things have to happen for him to have been playing Football Manager mobile on his phone. Welcome to the Player Manager Podcast. If you're joining us for the first time, how dare you? I'm Zealand Shannon, joined by Julian Gressel, the legendary Inter Miami player. That's not hyping you up too much, is it?
Legendary? That's a nice adjective you threw in there for sure.
Oh, thanks. I have my thesaurus open today, so I figured I'd try and get in the bag. Your Herculean efforts over the past couple of months have not gone unnoticed. There's another one for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, this is gonna go somewhere today. If you keep up with those word choices.
We have a plethora of things to talk about. I can do this all day long, but make sure you're subscribed to wherever you're getting your podcasts. We'd really appreciate it, especially if you're here for a great time, because we have a great show for you. We have a fantastic guest that I cannot wait to talk to. He may or may not be in Paris right now, but we're going to talk to him a little bit later and catch up on what's going on with the U.S. men's national team there. We're going to talk about the Olympics in totality, the men's and the women's side of the soccer, and maybe a little bit else as well. Big wins this weekend, though, for the women, unless Julian Gressel might have been rooting for the German national team in some of those matches, but they caught these hands from the women's national team. The men also picked up a crucial win against New Zealand, and we are going to talk to our friend in Paris about that because our friend is Walker Zimmerman, and he may or may not have been involved in that particular match, but he's going to join us, and I cannot wait for that. But before we get to it, Inter Miami with another win without Messi. You guys are really making a habit out of this.
It was a good start to the League's Cup. It's it was something that we wanted to do, especially playing at home. And Liga MX side Puebla, they have been in town a little bit. They've trained in Miami a little bit before that game, but certainly a good way to start that title defense, hopefully. And we can still do it without Messi even this week.
Now, the League's Cup, obviously, you get to play against these types of teams, and you go against teams that you maybe don't know what to expect as much. How did Puebla line up in compared to your expectations of what that match was going to be? The home match, not home match here.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know much about them, like you said, and I think it's a side that had struggled a little bit last year or this last season. I don't know how the seasons exactly work in Mexico, but I didn't think they had the best showing this last time around, and that's something we wanted to take advantage of. We knew that we were in good spirits. We knew that we were playing well, and that we are in first place in MLS, and we wanted to show that, and that's certainly was an opponent that we wanted to beat. And I thought we had a great first 20 minutes, then kind of slacked a little bit where we got a little lazy. But ultimately, ended up winning the game pretty comfortably and never really felt like too threatened in a sense, right? So it was certainly a good showing from us, and it definitely, Mexican teams always provide a different challenge in a way, I want to say. So it's certainly always a different game rather compared to MLS, and that's always something unique and something that is just nice because it's a different competition, different type of opponent that you don't face every week, and it's also good to know that you can beat those types of teams as well.
What are some of those differences for people that aren't professional athletes and on the field when you're in those situations? Like if everybody was a silhouette on the field, how would you know you were playing against a Mexican team? Is there something they do tactically, or is there this kind of different level of intensity, a different type of press?
Yeah, so for me and from my kind of experience, those games tend to be a bit more open in a way, right? I think the teams aren't as compact, I want to say, like front to back, where if they're sitting in a mid block or they're sitting in a low block, they're not always as tight together as other teams are, and you can sense that there's more, or you can feel that there's more transition moments, more spaces in between lines at times. But then you also have individual quality is a little bit higher, I think, all throughout the pitch. Where in MLS it's usually maybe limited to 5-6 guys on the field, 7 guys, and there you have quality players all throughout the team, and even coming off the bench because of the no salary cap and those types of things. So that's where I think it tends to just be different from MLS, and you certainly feel it when you have a little bit of space. It's like almost a little bit, you're not accustomed to it. You're like uncomfortable because there's a little more space and a little bit more time at times to get on the ball, especially in between lines and all those types of things. So it's definitely a different look.
I mean, so it's more emphasis on the technical side of the game, but tactically there's just more space to work, which obviously ended up working out pretty well for you.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the overall theme, right? Obviously, there's different teams that have, other characteristics, like the top teams that they're also compact and they also make it really tough to play against you. But there usually comes a certain time in the game where it opens up, and it opens up quite a lot. It worked out at this time around. Games past, like in the CONCACAF Champions Cup against Monterrey, for example, it didn't quite work out because you also got to remember, like, if you were stretched out and you were open up, they also have players that can run into space, and then their individual quality comes through a lot. So you got to be really, really careful of how you balance that and how you manage that, because you don't want to become too stretched. You don't want to become too open in a sense, right? And to make it this back and forth game, that's what a lot of these teams want, and we don't necessarily want that. So it's certainly a balancing act.
And in that balancing act, you did your darn best to almost score another goal. You hit the post again.
Suarez, the return, back of the net, no, off the post. It's not a good pass, it's a blind ball. Then you just see Suarez, he just plays it into Gressel. Gressel thinks he's got the second goal of the game. The post comes to the rescue.
Which you now, I believe, have far more post hits than actual goals this season. I hate to bring that one up. Yeah. Is the post conspiring against you this season?
It probably is. It probably is. It's something that I just can't seem to get the right amount of luck, the right amount of bounce at the moment. And that's okay. Because we're ultimately still winning, so, and that's really what counts. So if we weren't winning and they keep hitting the post, then I would be a little bit more upset about it. But I just gotta keep giving myself the chances, and then eventually I'm sure it'll happen, and I'm sure I'll score a big goal, I'll score an important goal that will mean a lot to the team and to the club, and hopefully that won't wait. We won't have to wait too much longer, but when you look up and the ball trickles towards the goal and then it hits the post and bounces out, it's just like, oh, come on, you could have just hit the post and bounce in. Like, like, what are you doing? It's sometimes gets a bit frustrating and kind of annoying, but it is what it is.
I feel like you could just walk up to the post and try and have a conversation with it or something. I mean, this is technically the home ground. These are the posts you have to deal with on half the occasions. Just try. Yeah. Maybe you should try to bribe it or something. You ever considered like leaving $20 by the goal?
I know. Yeah, I should honestly. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll have a little conversation with him or her over the next couple days. Hopefully, we have another few home games throughout the League's Cup, but maybe I just need to make it into like my pregame routine of walking out onto the field and just kind of kissing the posts a little bit.
If you do that and then score in the next game, you realize you're going to have to do that for the rest of your career. Now,
of course, superstitions.
Yeah. Of course, 100%. But we've danced around it just to run through what actually happened in the game. Matias Rojas got the first goal. Then Julian hit the post. We're going in chronological order here. Then Julian nearly had an assist. And then in the 72nd minute, you dropped I'll go for the alliteration here, the tasty Travella. To Jordi Alba, who then squared it to Suarez. It was like you were part of those vintage Barcelona teams. That's what gave you the 2-0 lead to go on and pick up the win. How was the atmosphere for this game as well? Because there's been a lot of conversations around the atmosphere of the League Cup relative to MLS games, and this was a particularly weird one for you guys because it was technically a road game, technically at home.
Yeah, it was strange because I don't think it was sold out. I think there was quite a lot of tickets left, to be honest with you. I think on the secondary market you could get some for like $17 to $20, I think, just before kickoff. So the atmosphere, I mean, the fans that are always there, that support us, our supporters are great. They were there, they bring the energy, they sing all game long and all of that. But in general, I think it definitely, you could sense a little bit of a difference. And one, it's obviously because Leo is not playing, right? If he was playing, I think it'd be a different thing. But and maybe two, it's because everybody's kind of like not really sure about the League's Cup yet, and you have that, I think, throughout all of the games in League's Cup that I've seen, that are kind of, yeah, people are coming, but people aren't really. Then there's more Mexican teams supporters there, so it's certainly a bit of a strange setting at the moment. That I think that just because it's so new, I think it still needs to just kind of develop and learn, and people need to learn about it. I'm curious to see how it's going to be now when we go to NRG Stadium in Houston.
That's going to be
against
Tigres.
Lively. Yeah, so that'll be a very, very intense setting, I feel like. So we'll see how it develops and how it's going to continue. But the people the supporters that are there always to support us, they do a great job. They support us no matter what, and they sing and they dance and have a good time. And we try and repay that on the field. So it's good in that sense.
And they seem to really be taking a liking to you as well. This just to play off the theme of what we were doing on the last podcast, where we brought on our friend from the Battered Herons podcast to apologize officially to you after saying that you were the worst offensive player on the team. Well, that train has continued. Sam Dorsley left a comment on Instagram this week, said, "I'm a certified Gressel hater. I mean, but I have to admit, he's been on fire lately. I was wrong about him." Fire emoji. So how does it feel to get to continue to bask in this kind of this complete 180 from the Gressel haters to the Gressel lovers?
I mean, it kind of is what it is. I don't try and look at it. And now I see it more because of our producer, pulling out these comments like these, and he brings it more to my attention in that sense. But it's certainly, it just kind of is what it is. I mean, I'm certainly happy that I'm playing well, and that I guess the fans see a bit more of kind of what I'm all about and what I used to be all about. But there's also times where, like we talked about last week, for example, that there's other requirements needed from me and in different roles and different stuff that comes up on the field that where I don't get to have an assist or secondary assist or whatever you want to call it, and like I did in this past game again, but I
go with hockey assist. I feel like hockey assist is a good way to say it.
Yeah, but I still do my work, and that's, I think, what maybe people are starting to realize a bit more. And like I said, I'm happy with it. I'm certainly okay with whatever, even if they continue to hate. I don't really pay too much attention to it. It's just, I'm trying to do my part and play to the best of my abilities, help the team the best I can, and that's all I can do.
And that team's desperately needed the help, because one of the main things that people were focused on during this League Cup match, of course, is the 37-time Ballon d'Or winner, Leo Messi. He was back, and he was in the stands. Don't quote me on that number, by the way. Did you get a chance to catch up with him? Have you heard anything about his situation? Is he spending time in the locker room, or is he still just in the full rehab mode, even though he's back around the team?
No, I mean, he's full rehab mode, but he does the rehab around the team. I think he has his trainer there, the doctors are there, and all the things that he needs to get better, I think, are at our facility, one. And then he obviously is there on game days as well to support us. I think his kids obviously like going to the game. I always see them running onto the field right as soon as the final whistle blows. They run onto the field to play the ball, to kick the ball around themselves. And so, he's there. He's in the locker room before the game. He's in the pregame huddle and all those types of things where, he's there to show support and wants to support us. He's encouraging. He's still talking and present. I want to say he's not just distant and in a way where he's gone and he's not supporting us and just worrying about his rehab. No, he's there. He's there training. He's there at games and he's really trying to push us to I want to say win another League's Cup. So. It's been good to have him around. It's good to have his energy. It's good to kind of, have his presence. He gives a different feel to the group, obviously. And that's something nice to have.
I know you're probably numb to this in some ways because you've been training and playing with him for a while now at this point. But is there a different energy on the field when you know that Leo is at least in the stands supporting the team? Do you at least cross your mind when you're out there? Do you score the goal and you kind of look up at him and give a fist pump or something?
I don't know, not me necessarily, but maybe some of the other guys. Yeah, I know that like he's watching, right? He's our teammate, and I would hope that even when he was at Copa America, for example, and we had games that he was watching, like so it's certainly he's part of our team. I'm part of the team, and I want to do as best as I possibly can, and that's just something. Yeah, the energy is different when he's around, but I think that maybe the energy would be different if Busi wasn't there or I wasn't there even, so not obviously not comparing myself to Leo Messi and then kind of his energy that he gives off, but it's certainly nice to have him there, and maybe when you look outside and you kind of see him sit there actually paying attention, maybe not looking at his phone, it's something that maybe gives you a little bit of a boost, but I don't necessarily need that, I think, for myself, but everybody's different, and some guys might. So it's good to have him there. Like I said, his energy is good, and he wants to push us. And did you see the whole thing with his phone and his wife?
I did. I don't want to put another man down here, right? But it is nice to know, right, that the Lionel Messi, even the great Lionel Messi, still is getting the side eye from his significant other while she's trying to figure out what he's got on his phone. I saw that video, and all I was thinking is I really hope he's doing something as benign as playing like Candy Crush. Just I love the idea for some reason. Yeah, no, like not there's anything wrong with Candy Crush. It's a very solid game that is completely addicting. And I would love just to know what games Leo Messi has on his phone. Like, what is Leo Messi doing when he's on his phone? I don't know why that's sort of thought, but do you know?
I don't.
You ever caught him playing like Clash of Clans or something, or some stupid like Fortnite on his phone? Or
no, I've not. But maybe until the end of the season, I can do some investigating and just kind of like walk by and see what's happening. But no, I don't know. I don't know what he does. I don't know what got him in trouble, or if anything got him in trouble there. I'll
be honest, I feel like I do that just to my brother or my friend all the time. I mean, if you're sitting on the couch and they're on their phone, you're just kind of like, what are you up to over there?
Yeah.
Got any games?
We'll see. Phone? Maybe I have a chance to sneak peek.
You try to, if it's one of those collaborative online games, you got to join Messi's
that's right,
squad or whatever.
I mean, we talked about fantasy football, right? So hopefully maybe he's doing some fantasy football research for the season that's coming up for us. So
that's what he's doing. Yeah, he's looking at potential late round draft picks for a PPR type fantasy football league. That, I mean, if you're the GOAT at one thing, it's a mindset. You got to be the GOAT you got to be the GOAT at everything.
That's it.
Oh man, he's watching deep cut YouTube videos about how to play fantasy football. That is my new hope for Leo Messi. Will complete the Americanization or Football Manager. I mean, I know Luis Suarez is already in there. I wouldn't be surprised if Leo Messi.
Maybe you got him into it. Yeah.
No, they do. They do have a mobile game. Maybe he watched the podcast, found out who I was, started watching tutorial. I mean, this is only 7 unbelievable things have to happen for him to have been playing Football Manager mobile on his phone instead of playing, instead of like watching the match or talking to Antonella. Yeah. Although, Football Manager has been cited in over 40 divorce cases as a reason in the UK. Not a great advertisement for the game, but definitely interesting.
Wow, that is interesting.
So careful with it, Julian.
I will be. Very
dangerous stuff there. It's time to transition to our Olympics coverage, and who better to talk about that than somebody who is literally at the Olympics. But thanks for playing the game. He's not in Paris. It's Walker Zimmerman. You're in Marseille and in Saint Etienne. Do you feel like you're still getting the Olympics experience? I don't really know how this works, obviously, as not an Olympic athlete here.
It's definitely a little unique. I would say we felt like we're a little bit isolated, but still a part of Team USA in the same sense. But hopefully we'll win this next game, and we'll see if we end up in Paris for the quarterfinals, because it'd be nice to just at least see kind of what that's all about, even though we probably won't have much free time now that we play every 3 days.
You haven't met any of the other Team USA athletes or anything like that?
No, we've seen pretty much zero other Olympians since we've been here. We were in Bordeaux for a training camp for probably 12 days, and then we were in Marseille for obviously the first 2 games. Didn't even have time to meet up with the women's national team. We were trying to make it work. Schedules were kind of opposite in terms of when we trained, and then they played a day after us both times. And yeah, so I mean, it definitely is. You feel the pride of like being a part of Team USA. We got all the cool gear, got the bags, got all the fits, did our own opening ceremonies, but you're still definitely a little bit isolated when you're playing in other cities, it feels like.
So you're telling me you weren't a part of La Washington crossing the Delaware down the
I
set?
did not follow King James at the top of the helm, unfortunately.
Oh, did you get together as a team and watch the opening ceremony? Were you able to do that, or was there practice or something going on?
We did, not really all together by the time that the United States were called, just because they were second to last. It was pretty late local time. I think it was probably like 10:30 or so. But for dinner that night, we all, wore our opening day fits, and Tanner Tessman and I did some emceeing, and we, split up the team, and I took 11 guys, he took 11 guys, and we wrote like 2 or 3 sentences of basically like a roast about each player and introduced them one by one for dinner, and the entire staff was just loving it. So we had fun with it. We took some pics, have some videos, but it was, our own opening ceremony.
I love it. I saw some of that. I think I saw some of that on the socials from some of the guys I follow. I know a lot of guys actually in your squad, which is funny. I feel like I've crossed paths with a lot of them. But one good thing about not being in Paris and not being necessarily in the Olympic Village is having to sleep on those cardboard beds, right? You guys get good beds?
Yeah, we're in some nice beds. Really
good.
nice right now. I can't imagine preparing for a game sleeping on a cardboard bed. I don't know the full details of that. Like I'm curious to see like what it's actually like if we make it to Paris, but I'm sure we won't be staying in the Olympic Village regardless.
Yeah.
I got to know. I'm going back to this roast thing. And Julian, so you already saw some of this. Do you remember what was your best roast? Who did you land the best roast on?
Ah, man, I have my notes on my phone here, and it's really, I got to make sure that it's that we're not going to cross any barriers here.
Your best roast that doesn't get you in trouble.
Yeah. Let me.
We'll go there.
So, I mean, part of it you kind of have to know like the background, but I'll do this one. This is the first one that I did. John Polskamp, he's a goalkeeper, plays at Sporting Kansas City. He's known for having some really big hands and like thick fingers. Okay, we've been like making fun of his fingers the whole camp. So that's like what I went off of. So I just said something along the lines of, if you wish to feel weak, just shake his hand. It's been said that Joey Chestnut couldn't finish the 10 dogs that are his fingers. He's been dubbed the thumb, the sausage, the loaves of bread for fingers, your goalkeeper post camp. So like that's an example of something that we would be saying about people. They're all pretty funny. I'm not gonna.
What do you have? Do you have one for? Did you have Benha on your team?
Benha was the Tanner. I took all the goalkeepers and defenders, and so
okay, gotcha.
We definitely included a Messi line in there for Benha. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Guys loved it, and it'll be a good memory to have for sure.
Awesome.
What I'm curious about, because in trying to cover the Olympics, is it's such an interestingly weird tournament. How well do you actually know all of these guys? Because you're one of the overage players that's just kind of been injected into what is essentially the US U23 team. Like, how much time did you guys have to gel before going to the tournament?
I mean, I think thankfully for me, I went to the camp as the only overage guy last month in Kansas City. And so I had about 10 to 12 day camp with them where I literally went in not really knowing that many people. Maybe a few of them had been into first team camps, and I'd gotten to know them a little bit, like a January camp or something like that. Other than that, just from playing against them in MLS. But man, we bonded really quick. They're so easy to get along with. Such a fun group. We crushed like 6 escape rooms together in Kansas City. It was right down the block. So that immediately, puts your feet to the fire in terms of friendships. And we beat all 6. So I would say that the bonding part was one of the easiest parts.
Who set up
escape rooms are a big thing for the men's national team.
Yeah.
Okay. This is something that they always set up for you guys then?
We set it up. We always look like, I wonder if there's anything close by. And, a little quick Google search, I found that there was one like 0.5 miles away. We still drove there to save our legs a little bit. But no, it was so fun. We did like 3 one day, 2 another, 1 another day, and we knocked them out.
So have they taught you anything else though? Since you're the old man, right? You're the old guy,
I
new
mean, it's
like
a bunch of,
TikTok dances or stuff like that. No.
I'm sure they're on it. I haven't progressed my TikTok knowledge since this camp began, but no, man, they keep me young. They always joke about me being the granddad of the group.
Yeah.
Even I'll tell a story. They're like, "Oh yeah, from 1984," like something like that. I'm like, you guys are lunatics, but it's fun, man. I feel like I'm a child at heart. I feel like I keep them young. I'm playing all the games. We all joined a Clash Royale clan. I had never really played that much, and so now we're all on the bus rides to and from training. Like that's what we're going to.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I
No, we
I
were
remember. I
Yeah.
want Zealand. Let me jump in, yeah, because I remember me being in January camp. I think last year, and me and you kind of connected a little bit, and you were great with me first time camp and all those types of things. So it was really obviously appreciative to you, and we kind of connected a little bit and went out to dinner a couple of times, went on some walks and stuff. And I remember you mentioning this tournament to me at that
Yeah.
time, that it was something that you had circled in your calendar or in your mind that you maybe wanted to get to, and that there's relationships you got to build a little bit to be one of those overage players and all those types of things. And what was the process from that moment, which is now a year and a half ago almost, right?
Yeah.
What was the process like from that moment till actually being called into the pre-camp, because that means basically that you're going, but
Yeah.
obviously the talks with Nashville, season's not really going great, so they probably don't really want to release you as easily as they want to, and kind of all those types of things. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, those are all really good questions, and kind of to make a long story short, I knew probably around that time when I was talking to you that center back could have been a position of need for this particular group, and so that was
Yep.
kind of what I was hearing through whoever it was at US Soccer, how they had done in previous tournaments, just like they needed some depth at center back is kind of the word on the street. And so again, I was like still obviously fighting for the first team, wanting to be involved in playing first team with the national team, whether that was Copa or whatever it was. And then fast forward to last December is like when I really started having conversations with Greg. He called me in the off season. It was like, hey, just like, I don't know how this next 6 months is going to shake out, but if we were to ask you to, be involved with the Olympic team, is that something you're open to? I'm like, yeah, Greg, of course. Any chance I get to wear that jersey, like, I'm going to do it. But no, I'm still going to try and fight and make the Copa roster if that's
Yep.
the place that I can help the national team the most. And then I ended up getting injured against you guys, or I guess you weren't
Yep.
in Miami. I don't know if you were there yet, actually.
No,
Okay.
last year, no.
Yeah. So end of February of this year, were you there?
Oh
Yeah, you were.
yeah.
So end of February, I had a knee-to-knee collision, ended up missing like 6 to 8 weeks, and it kind of put me on a tough timeline to get back for Copa anyways. And so at that point, I was like, man, this is actually, I can take my time with this rehab, not try and really rush to just get back. And it timed out perfectly to get my fitness up, finally getting, those 3-game weeks in right before this tournament. And so
Yeah.
Marco came to watch when we played Atlanta in Nashville and came over, and we talked just about this team, about the group, what he would expect from me as a player, and ended up going to that camp in Kansas City and just had a great camp and enjoyed hanging out with the guys. And here we are now. So I'm glad that I got that time to kind of adjust to this group, just because
Yeah.
it's not always easy coming into a new squad. But that's something that, I always take pride in, is just trying to be as seamless of a transition as possible with whoever it is I'm playing with, making them feel comfortable, trying to get on the same page tactically, learning their skill sets. And it's no different with this group.
Has it set in that you're an Olympian yet?
I don't know, man. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think like when you're in these big tournaments, you're just so focused on every single day. Right now it's about recovery. Tomorrow's game day. It's just about that one game at a time, one play at a time, and then you're recovering again. And like I don't think it really sinks in until it's over. I felt very similarly with the World Cup. Like you're just so. The analogy that Marco is using at this camp is like you're in a submarine right now. We're underwater. We're in our submarine with our family, and we'll pop up for air to see our family who comes to the game, and we'll go right back down. And that's what we've been doing here, especially now that we're not in like Paris. We're just kind of all over France. It's just us. It's just this family of guys, and we're just trying to reach our goals. So I don't know that it'll set in until we get back and things die down and the Olympics end, and hopefully we walk away with a medal.
Nice. Is anything, obviously the first two games, in the first game against France, so I thought you guys played really well. A little bit unfortunate the way it ended and the score line in general, but then obviously had a good bounce back against New Zealand. To talk a bit more about the soccer part of it, actually.
Yeah.
What is something that you guys have taken from the first two games that now, hopefully you can apply into this, must-win game to advance, and then obviously into the knockouts, hopefully?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I mean, we walked away from the France game feeling, pretty hard done by the scoreline. We knew that we created enough opportunities to score goals in that game.
Yeah.
Limited their chances, like really good chances, to shots outside the box, a set piece that we could have defended a little bit better. And so those were just a few moments that if you slip up a little bit or are not perfect, that other teams can capitalize on. And we had chances to capitalize and we didn't. And so we walked away feeling a little hard done with the score, but took a lot of positives that we competed and had real opportunities in that game to get a result. And then knew we had to start off quickly against New Zealand. They'd obviously beaten Guinea the first game, so if they won, then we're done and they're through. And so it was a must-win game for us. We thankfully got off to a hot start, goal in the 7th minute, 12th minute, 3-0 at the half. And
Yourself scored.
Yeah,
Nice.
That was amazing.
Behind the pitch with the free kick towards Maguire. Harriel's there, but saved, but put in for two. Oh, what about this? Forced home by Walker Zimmerman, the oldest player in this US squad.
So 3-0 at the half and ultimately got, a +3 goal differential, which every goal matters in a tournament like this. So going into tomorrow, I mean, Guinea's a tough team. You look at how they played France, 2 goals called back for them for just being offsides and ended up only losing 1-0. And so they're still in it. They're still in this tournament. They could still get a result against us and move on. And so we know it's going to be a tough game. We know the challenges that it'll bring. So just a matter of keep focusing on us and making sure we get the job done.
Is there anything weird that's happened at the Olympics that reminds you this tournament is different than, let's say, the World Cup?
Man, that's where I feel like if we were around some other things, I might have heard more stories that's going on. Obviously the Canada thing that popped up is a storyline that people were talking about in the soccer world. And other than that, I mean, we're just like all the Americans at home. We're rooting for Team USA. We're watching swimming at night, gymnastics, trying to catch whatever we can during the day if we're not training or getting treatment. But it's always on, in the hotel. It's always on in our rooms. It's always on in the training room. We're always trying to catch, a little bit of something and root the team on.
And you mentioned the Canada thing. The reporting's just kind of continued to roll out. And I'm curious to know what you think about that, because there's been a pretty wild debate about how much of an advantage you can gain from flying a drone over a closed practice in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the side that I don't think it's really going to help out your results too much. I mean, if you put a drone up over most match day -1s, it's very light. It's a walkthrough. It's maybe a small sided game or two just to get guys moving. But outside of maybe if you're practicing PKs, I don't think you're going to gain a whole lot of things that you don't see in other games. You're watching other film, you see their shape, pretty much the starting lineup, how they move on set pieces. I mean, unless there's a trick play or PKs involved, I really don't think you gain that much of an advantage. Definitely not worth the risk.
Yeah, but I mean, what did you think of the punishment that got laid out? I think it was a 6-point deduction, and the coach got banned for a year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll wait and see, what else comes out with this situation. I do feel a little bit bad for the players. I don't know exactly how aware they are of the whole situation. I'm sure more will come out about that, but if they truly didn't know, it's a shame that they're, the ones that have to fight through it. If they did, then obviously you'd hope they'd speak up a little earlier on it. But again, it's just a travesty that you had to resort to tactics like that to try and gain any type of advantage. And, we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, if you're a player and you are unaware, you're pretty hard done by it. But at the same time, you gotta respect the integrity of the game a little bit.
I mean, I also just have to ask, since you've been a part of a bunch of U.S. camps at this point, a lot of the reporting has come out that said this was happening a lot of the men's side too. Did you ever see any UFOs over U.S. training while you were there?
I definitely didn't. That would have been pretty crazy. You would probably just think it's our own drone, to be honest, because we're always filming our own training sessions. I don't think as a player you'd ever look up in the skies and question anything about someone filming training, and probably in large part because I don't think they'd gain much of an advantage from it. But we'll see what happens. It's obviously a big storyline going on, and we'll see how they deal with it.
That's cool. I wanna get back to the Olympics though. I mean, I know that's obviously something that you've waited for a long time, and now as an overage player, how are the other two guys doing that are overage? Miles and Georgie. Yeah, how is that connection between the three of you?
It's awesome. I've obviously gotten to know both of them through full team camps and playing against them in MLS. So Miles and I, it's been really fun just to kind of have that partnership again, just especially with what he went through in qualifying with that Achilles. And, we had kind of had a good run together and he wasn't able to go to the World Cup. And so I talked to him and he was so excited to be in consideration for this. And obviously was pushing hard to get released. And I'm really happy that he did. I think he's deserved, a moment to play in a major international competition. And with Georgie, another player who I think, hasn't had as much of a run out with the first team as maybe me or Miles, but he's having a great year in MLS. And you see the production that he's had since coming back to Colorado. I think he's almost double digits goals and assists right now, which is great for him to the start of the season. So a very much deserved call up, and then just the leadership to step up, take a PK, get our first goal of the tournament. That was huge, and it kind of boosted us in the second game.
It's funny as you talk about those two guys. It's like I know them personally, right, of how they are, or even you as a personality. And you said about yourself that you're a kid at heart, and I feel like those two are exactly that too. So you guys fit right into that squad.
Exactly. Yeah. There's definitely no egos being played. Like we are as good kids as everyone else.
I know. And you also, last question for me, you've talked about, giving advice to the younger players and all those things. And one thing you mentioned was journaling, right? To take in all the memories and all that type of stuff. Anything interesting in that journal at the moment? You writing down, or is it, is it all private? You don't want to talk about it?
No, I mean, I'm writing down more than anything. It's almost just like a daily log. It's probably not even that interesting. It's more of just like, what did I do from day to day? How was I feeling? Obviously it was fun getting to write one after the second game, where we got our win and got a goal. Like that was really special.
Yeah.
But the thing I told the whole group and staff, prior to our first game was at a dinner, stood up and talked about my experience at the World Cup and how I thought going into it, I'm always going to remember this because it's a once in a lifetime thing. Just hanging out with my best friends and teammates. And all of a sudden you get back and you don't really remember much. Were in the lounge a lot. You played a lot of pool and cards, and you obviously prepared for your games. But like, it's so hard to remember like the finer moments and details of your trip and that experience. So I don't want to have any regrets of not remembering something, or even better yet, like generations from now, like people are, my kids are going to be like, oh, my grandfather was in the Olympics. And it's like, like show and tell. Here's what he wrote about the Olympics. Here's a jacket that he wore for opening ceremonies. Like, it's just really cool stuff that I think is a legacy piece that I don't think I fully took advantage of with the World Cup. And I want to make sure that no one would have that same regret of not recording kind of what's happening at such a monumental event.
What a blessing. What a blessing. And thank you so much for sharing this here on the Player Manager. We appreciate you coming on. Walker, you're an Olympian forever, and congratulations. That is a great, great achievement, and hopefully you can take it a little bit further, even win that medal and have that medal to go along with those stories about, your great-grandfather, being a great-grandfather one day. But really appreciate you coming on. Good luck, and go get him.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Huge thank you to Walker for joining the podcast, and a really interesting interview as well, because I feel like I've never actually gotten any sort of a window inside of the Olympic football tournament before. And it sounds like he got a uniquely good situation because he got that extra camp with the guys. But if you're Georgie or if you're Miles, you're coming in, you're almost learning who these guys' names are or what these guys' names are as the tournament is going on. There's no other tournament like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of the guys you obviously know because a lot of them play in MLS, so you kind of know of them or kind of like by passing. Maybe you've crossed camps with a couple of them at the national team a few times, even if it was for me like a January camp, right? I obviously know Miles through Atlanta, but also through the national team. And then Georgie, I've been in camp with at the US. Walker, I've been in camp with, and it's funny that going through that roster, I know, or I've played with so many of those guys. It's like Kevin Paredes, Griffin Yao, Ben Hakramoski, Miles, Walker, Georgie. It's like, it's funny to Pat Schulte, who's in goal. Gaga Solina was the goalkeeper for the national team camp one time. So it's like, you kind of just know these guys. So I would have been a perfect overage player too, by the way. Damn it.
Are you sitting there kind of thinking, man, I should have put my hat in the ring for this. Maybe I would have had a shot.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I should have. And I feel like I realized it a little bit too late, that this was something that could happen. But I also know that Inter Miami, at that time, my club situation was so unsettled and I didn't know what was going to happen. Walker's is pretty settled in a sense, right, in Nashville. So I was, just getting to Miami, and I knew that Benja and Diego Gomez were going to go. So it was something that I knew that Miami wasn't going to be a fan of letting me go, especially with Copa America and all these things happening as well. So it was like loosely thinking about it. And then, also have 2 kids at home with my wife would be alone, but all those types of things kind of play a role, but certainly should have maybe tried a little bit more just to kind of see where it goes. But it's cool to get these secondhand stories, I guess.
Yeah. No, it is. You almost get a little FOMO, I guess, listening to them. But I find it so fascinating that my mental image of how that worked is the coach basically sits there and just calls up 3 guys as he calls up the team and goes like, hey, do you want to be the overage player? But it sounds like there's almost some sort of political campaign that happens, like a year and a half out. I mean, that's what he was talking about, where you go, you kind of approach one of the coaches in the right way and go, hey, I would be interested in this if you feel like it would work out. And then they slowly, as the rest of the U23s develop, figure out where maybe the holes are in the team and where they might need to plug. It is so much more in depth and in like an actual campaign than I would have possibly imagined.
Yeah, it's you mentioned that 1.5 years out and how me and Walker talk about it, and we talked about it, and like he said, he thought that center back might be a position of need, and lo and behold, there's now 2 overage center backs, with Miles and him, and at that time when we were talking, we didn't know who was going to be the coach yet for the Olympic team. So there was a U20 coach, I think, that was in camp with us that I think we were talking about, and potentially him being it or not. And then we knew that obviously the full roster coach and the federation will have a big say in who is going as an overage player, right? And Walker, he's been great. He was great at the World Cup, I think. He's obviously been a big staple in U.S. soccer and for the men's national team a while now. And I think he was the perfect candidate for that. And that's what I told him back then too, because of how he is as a person, how he can relate to younger guys, how he's not hard to get along with. There's no ego. There's, he's not very particular. He's not like super strict about certain things. He's just a good guy, and a good guy that has a ton of experience going to a World Cup, obviously being a DP in Nashville, being a leader there, and all these types of things have had success in Nashville as well. And so it was just a no-brainer in my opinion to pick him, obviously. And certainly happy for him, but it's cool to kind of see then they do things like him and Tanner, who's the captain at the Olympics, taking the reins a little bit, doing the different groups at the opening ceremony that they had themselves and the roasts and all those things. So certainly a perfect guy to kind of keep the group engaged and also not have him freak out about a loss in the first game, and focusing on, all right, now we just got to take care of business in the next one and the second group stage game, and then we'll still advance, and then we have our shot. It
was also interesting to hear him talk about this. Kind of after we finished the interview, we just sat around and talked for a little bit, and I wish we'd kind of recorded it, because we were talking about the fixture congestion and how it's actually a really, really intense tournament. So from a player's perspective, like if you win the gold, you play 6 matches in 18 days in like all different locations. What is the most difficult part of that?
Just recovering in between games. It's just recovery, and then trying not to let it get to your head in a sense, right? You have to stay in a clear mindset, and that's really where everything starts in my opinion. For me, it's like if you think you're tired, then you're probably a little bit more tired than what you actually are. If you think hey, we're at the Olympics, we get to be here, we're having the right mindset about it, then the recovery process and your whole outlook on things isn't as bad. So I think Walker in that case is again another great guy to have, and keep those guys in the right mindset and the right thoughts and all these things because of his experience and how quick it goes by. You talk about journaling, talking about memories, all those things. Like it really keeps you present and you are where your feet are in that sense. And that's I think the biggest thing to really get through those tournaments well. And I think there'll be some rotation, and guys will have to play different. He's talking about the small size of the roster. He also post interview there with us a little bit, so that's obviously an issue that I think
18 guys, that's crazy.
Yeah.
16 outfield players for 11 spots when you have 6 matches in 18 days. Come on.
Yeah, it's nuts. That's too much, or not enough spots, too many games, I guess. So yeah, something that everybody will have to contribute, and everybody needs to be ready, even if you don't play, and if you just train, all those types of things. So it's certainly an interesting tournament in that sense, and guys like Walker, Miles, and Georgie, help that group to be ready for when the big games hopefully come.
And we also were able to talk to him about the Canada cheating scandal, and you were able to share your thoughts for a little bit. But I think this is one of the dumber scandals I've seen break in a long time, just in terms of its obviousness and pervasiveness. Because the TSN, which is the big sports, one of the big sports outlets in Canada, and ESPN's also published a really well reported piece about this whole thing that basically uncovered that the men's and women's teams have been doing this since at least 2017, 2018. They've been caught repeatedly, and they finally just got caught so egregiously that they had to be punished. But what did you think when you first started seeing these headlines?
I thought it was just stupid. I don't know. I mean, there's obviously certain things that happen pre-match where, you get information about the other team, you get lineups, you get personnel decisions, you get whatever it is. But flying an actual drone over training and actually spying on them, it's like we talk about Spygate, like in the NFL, like for the Patriots, those types of things are just, I don't know. And soccer is such a different sport where it's so instinct based and so many different variables are going on in the games, where like I feel like the only way you could gain an advantage by spying is maybe set pieces, maybe just lineups. Like I don't like in the run of play, it's so hard to predict certain things, even if you know the player. Like, but he can all of a sudden do something different, and then it's certainly or the coach can change up the personnel with a sub or anything like it. It's just it's such a fast paced game that it doesn't really make any sense for me to get to take that much risk by flying a drone over trainings.
No, I don't. I tried the first when I first saw this headline. That was what I was trying to reconcile: is what is he actually or she actually getting out of this? Because I started to dive into it once it came out that John Herdman had apparently been doing it when he was coaching the Canadian team for a long time. And I'm sitting here going, well, if you don't have a microphone on the field, you don't even really kind of know what drill's being run or whether, they could be showing you a press, but you don't know when that press is going to be used throughout the course of the game. It's not, you're not getting, or even in Spygate, if you talk about NFL, there's plays. And if you know what play is coming, that is a massive, advantage. And you can build a portfolio of plays and hand signals and whatever. But in soccer, it does just boil down to the set pieces. I would love, and I'm sure somebody's already doing this, to figure out whether Canada was an outlier in terms of how many times they scored and conceded from set pieces over that period of time. Because that would be the one thing that they would really gain an advantage in. And if you made a graph and all of a sudden Canada was like, oh yeah, they're the best team in the world when it comes to not conceding from set pieces, it's like, well, maybe the drone was actually doing something, but no, most of the time.
It's I don't know, but it's funny because you mentioned John Herdman, and I think the only thing that, like, when I think of John Herdman, the one thing that comes to mind, obviously now he's in Toronto, and we just played against them as well, so I noticed it again. He's I think he's the only head coach I've ever seen that wears an AirPod. or that wears
Really?
like an earpiece that is probably connected to an assistant coach who sits up top, right? Usually it's the assistant coaches that are sitting down on the bench who are connected with somebody that, sits in the stands to have a better view of the whole field, right? But Herdman is one of the only coaches that actually has one in his ear directly. So very interesting there. Maybe it's just something that he likes to have a lot of information at hand.
I think it's clear based off of all we know from all of this reporting in the last couple of days, and you saying that right now, that he is somebody that looks for every tiny advantage that he can possibly find, which in a lot of ways can be a good thing. It's obviously a bad thing when you start cheating. And as he did repeatedly, it seems, according to the reports, like lied about it consistently. I mean, he was asked about it. What day is it? He was asked about it on July 26th. We're recording on July 29th. And he was asked about it on July 26th. And he said, as far as I'm aware, the Canadian men's national team has never engaged in this sort of stuff, but I'm happy to help with any investigations. A day later, reports came out that he held a briefing actually with 17 players where he showed them footage of an Honduras closed doors training session.
Wow.
So that report came out that I just love the idea of the reporters saying, you're saying this publicly, I'm going to just drop this on your head the next day. Which kind of blew my mind, because when I initially heard about this report, and I'm sure I wasn't alone in this, it sounded like it was the head coach working with some sort of like secret agent type assistant coach who was just flying drones around. And then that coach would just feed information to the head coach. But now it seems like it might have actually been a much more systemic, like we're having a briefing with the entire match day squad where we're just watching Honduras in their closed door training.
I mean, systemic in a way of it affected the men's team and the women's team, because the women's coach was also just as involved, and she got banned for a year and they got deducted the 6 points and all that stuff. So it might be Canada, the Canadian Federation in general.
It is. That's what I made.
That.
Like I've got that secondary channel now, Zealandism, where I just make these rambling videos where you just talk about this sort of stuff. And I went way down this rabbit hole, and I'm like, look, there has got to be somebody that is not Herdman or Bev Priestman, who's the coach of the Canadian women's team. There's somebody above that's coordinating. That's my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, that somebody, because apparently as part of this reporting, it came out that Jesse Marsh, who's the new head coach of, you can tell I've been down this rabbit hole, but the new head coach of the Canadian team, he was approached during Copa America by somebody that's a part of the Canadian Federation. And they asked him if he wanted to spy on the other team's training. And apparently he turned them down. He said, that's just not something that I necessarily want to do. But the fact that somebody is approaching the head coach and going, hey, we have this capability, like if you wanted to spy on these other teams' training session, that's just wild to me. I feel like I feel like it might be like the last card hasn't fallen in terms of this insanity.
No, definitely not. It will certainly continue, and there'll be more information coming out, and maybe there'll be some more sanctions on the men's side as well. We'll kind of see what happens. And honestly, maybe the women's national team of Germany should have used some of that against the U.S. women's national team, because they got absolutely battered 4-1 at the Olympics.
That was a tough look for. But I mean, the other half of you's got to be happy with the U.S. win there. So
I'm totally right in the middle. I'm just watching. It's all good with those type of games. I'm just watching. No, it's it was a clear statement win, a good win for the U.S. Women's national team in the Olympics, and now I think, obviously the sky's the limit for them. They want to redeem themselves after the World Cup and go for the gold. And I think a win like that certainly shows that their intent and what they want to be all about. And got the attack certainly flowing quite nicely. And we'll see how far they can take it. And hopefully Germany can recover, and maybe they can meet again at some point in a medal game down the road.
Germany's got a good shot. They're taking on Zambia in their final match of the group stage, and the U.S. is taking on Australia, I believe, who's missing Sam Kerr. She's still out with the ACL, so it should be a U.S. first place finish in the group. But we'll see how that all plays out. The women they're trying to steal that gold medal back from the Canadians, I believe it was, and the Canadians, amazingly, despite the 6-point deduction, are now back to 0 points after 2 matches. They have won their first 2 matches. So it's the weirdest looking group ever. Everybody's played 2 matches. 2 teams have 3 points and 2 teams have 0 points. But if Canada wins its final match, it actually looks like they're going to go to the knockouts, even though they got 6 points deducted.
Oh, so it doesn't even matter.
No, well, okay. So what really almost makes me angry on behalf of the one team that gets screwed, especially if it's the US, is what will end up happening if Canada wins all 3 matches. They'll probably not win the group, which means there's a team that did win the group that is now going to get punished because Canada was spying on somebody, because they're going to have to play Canada in the in the knockouts, because Canada will be a second place team going through or whatever.
And like Walker said, it's not even the players' fault in a sense, right? It's like federation who does this, and the players, like, why would they get the 6-point deduction? It's the players who play and earn the points in a sense, right? So it's like, that's weird. But whatever.
I mean, to give credit to those players that play for Canada, a good few of them, especially the ones from the gold medal team, came out and said, we're kind of disgusted by this. We didn't know that the team was doing this. And the only reports that say the players probably knew were on the men's side. So based off of all the reporting, we have no reason not to believe those people. I mean, how would you feel if it came out all of a sudden that the U.S. had been flying drones over practice and all of those briefings that you got while you were with the team were acquired illegally?
I mean, I don't know. I would feel a little bit like, was it really necessary? You can, like Walker said, you just watch games in the past, you watch, player profiles, all those types of things. And that's really, enough information for me to go out there and play and know enough about the opponent to be well prepared. And so I feel like I'd be a bit like, why would you guys do that? That puts us in jeopardy of now being deducted 6 points, potentially getting out of the Olympics, all those types of things. So I don't know. I wouldn't like it.
I mean, third place teams do get through in the Olympic women's tournament. They only bring 12 teams. So Canada right now is a third place team. It means basically if they win their match, they should be okay. But I don't know if that's good for the sporting culture. I mean, they were getting all that drone footage and everything. The match of the tournament, though, is just something I want to bring up, because I know we talked kind of before we start recording, and I know you haven't had the opportunity to watch this, so I kind of just want to see your reaction. But it was Australia and Zambia. Did you see the score of that game? I did not know. 6-5, Julian.
Oof. Wow.
6-5. And in this game, Zambia took a 5-2 lead with 34 minutes left.
Oh no.
In the game. And Australia managed to score 4 goals in the final 34 minutes. And Australia also had a goal disallowed that was like on the line. VAR late reversal sort of catastrophe. Have you ever been involved in a match that ridiculous?
It's funny that you mentioned, because yes.
Really?
You were thinking no, but yes, this was actually one game that in college. So we were at Providence College, second round NCAA tournament, playing against Maryland. We were the clear underdogs. I think Maryland hadn't lost a game all season, so they were undefeated. And we go down 4-1. I think I want to say a little over 20 or a little under 20 minutes left. And we end up winning 5-4.
Oh.
You can look this up. This is a great video, maybe for Zealandism and whatever other channels you got going on. But it was like super windy that day. I think our left back scored a direct corner. Our right back scored like a volley, a goal that I don't think he'll ever score or has ever scored in his life.
There's the corner curled in, right at the keeper, punches it just to the top of the box. Griffin, volley blocked in front, still alive, a shot, and it's in the back of the net.
And it's Gressel.
4-2. Sort of crashes into Samuels. Chip toward the back post, and it's in! Chip with the outside of the boot from Nick Saylor, curling into the upper 90, and it's 4-3. 2 goals just seconds apart. Campbell intervening. Vigliotti fights through him. The cross to the top of the box. Deflected. Still alive. The shot! And it's in the back of the net. What a hit!
What a
and it's
strike.
4-4. Incredible.
That's
Curling
dangerous.
toward the keeper. It's off the post and in. It's an Olympico. Wow. Providence is ahead with 8 minutes and 11 seconds to go. The goal going in directly from the corner kick.
Yeah, it was super special to be on that field, to be honest with you, and something really, really crazy. But yeah, 5-4 win. Providence College at Maryland. Wow. I want to say it was 2016 NCAA tournament.
Oh, it was in the tournament. You knocked Maryland out of the tournament. Yes, oh my goodness.
Round. It was my senior year, so it could have ended my career, but we continued. It was crazy.
And I was wondering this while I was watching Australia and Zambia, because in those types of games, the emotions just seem to be a lot higher than a normal big tournament game. It's like there's so much, nobody can believe what's happening while it's happening. So how much does that momentum play into it as somebody that's ridden that wave before in a huge match? Like after you scored the first goal, how much does that change the feeling?
Well, at that point, we were down 4-1, and at that point, it's 4-2. And you're like, all right, nice, and you kind of keep playing. And then a few minutes later, it's 4-3. And you're like, all right, let's go. Like, keep going. And you could, like, in that, if you watch those highlights, actually, in those highlights, you can see the bench's reaction. And every goal, you get a little bit more hype. You get a little bit more, like, energy going. So it's just like a momentum builder, where, like, 4-2, okay, fine, good. Like, at least it's not a blowout type of thing. 4-3, you're like, all right, let's try, like, great. Like, let's try and get and then 4-4, you're like, oh my God, what is happening? And then you end up scoring the 5-4 and you just go completely nuts. And it's like, what is this? This is insane.
Do you remember the reactions of the players in the Maryland team? Because I know when the final whistle blew, and to add off the craziness in Australia, Zambia had a great chance with about 30 seconds left to tie it at 6. And the Australian keeper made a beautiful, like, kick save. And then right after that, the whistle blows and the whole Zambian team just falls over. Like, they had nothing left to give and they could not believe they hadn't won this game. Do you remember something like that from Maryland?
After the game, yeah. I mean, they all were like, shocked, of kind of what happened and how it happened. And yeah, I think you're just at a loss of words and you have no idea what went on in that moment. For us, it was different because I feel like we were Zambia in this scenario. We were the underdog that kind of came back and, kind of beat the team that was supposed to beat us, that hadn't lost a game all year, was up 4-1, all these things. And we kind of turned it around on them. So it was a little bit like we were more shocked, I felt like, us than maybe Zambia, who was like trying to hang on for dear life in a sense after going up so much. So, yeah, maybe a little bit different, but definitely feel them being just like stunned. It's just a stunning feeling, I think.
How'd you guys do in that tournament, by the way?
We ended up going to the Elite 8 and losing at UNC in the Elite 8. So that was my last college game ever there. Yeah, I think even in overtime, golden goal rule. NCAA college.
I do love the golden goal rule. That's one of the few places where it still exists in NCAA, like, soccer. But as much as I just brought up your most painful golden goal memory in the other direction, I do love the golden goal rule overall, because it creates that moment where once you realize the goal has actually gone in, it's just like pure elation or sadness.
Yeah. Either way. Yeah. But this was a good way to end it. Making me relive some of the moments, but certainly a good episode.
Just that win against Maryland, you will always have that, and rest in peace to Zambia. And just because we didn't hit on the other group, the World Cup champions Spain, they're fine. Japan and Brazil are battling for the second spot, and the women's tournament is very fun to watch if you have the opportunity and you're listening to this. Any other painful memories from your college career, Julian, we can relive before we wrap up? Or
let's leave it at that for now, I think.
Okay, that's it for this week. Thank you so much to Walker Zimmerman for joining us. And please follow us on Instagram at Player Manager Pod. It's a great place to see video clips of this show and to apologize for your bad takes on Julian Gressel. You hear? All right, bye.